House of Cards is brought to you by Drizzly, your online liquor store. Available in over 95 cities across North America, Drizzly offers a huge selection and competitive pricing with a side of personalized content. Now there's no need to leave the house. Get alcohol delivered in less than an hour by Drizzly. Head on over to drizzly.com and order today. And now get $5 off your first order of $20 or more when using promo code DRINK19 at checkout. Shop beer, wine, and liquor with drizzly.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls,
You're listening to House of Cards.
Today, the game is different.
I want to gamble. Gambling is a very serious business. Is that clear?
Welcome to House of Cards. Dave Weishuttle with you here, deep from the swamps of Jersey. We got a great show coming up for you. Gambling has been around since this country has started, and women have played an important role in the growth of the gambling industry. And now a new book has documented the role women have played in the gambling business of this country. It's called That Expletive Broad, and it's written by gaming attorney Jennifer Gaynor. Coming up, we're going to talk with Jennifer about the early female pioneers of gambling in this country all the way up to the present day. It's an incredible book about the women in the world of gambling and casinos. So stick around. We'll be right back with House of Cards.
I owed the IRS $10,000.
The IRS garnished my wages.
They put a lien on my house.
I'm self-employed and didn't report all my income. They claim I owe a lot more than I do.
The IRS is the most powerful collection agency in the world. They do not give up until you pay.
I couldn't sleep. We were being audited. I called Tax Solutions Now, and a great big weight was lifted off my shoulders.
I called Tax Solutions Now, and they got the IRS off my back.
Tax Solutions Now had my wage garnishment lifted in 48 hours.
Tax Solutions Now can get you help. Our agents know the rules, can stop the pain, and get you the best deal.
Tax Solutions Now saved my business.
I qualified for the Fresh Start program. I paid less than I owed.
We connect you with a team of former IRS agents and tax professionals who get the IRS off your back. Time is running out. Call Tax Solutions now.
Call 800-297-9788. 800-297-9788.
Psst. Yeah, you. Come here. Haven't you heard? We don't need to hide anymore. Now, we can shop privately for adult products at adamandeve.com. They've got massage oils, lingerie, and lots more we can't mention here. Use offer code SPICE404. They'll give you 50% off almost any one item, 3 free DVDs, free mystery gift, and free shipping. That's 50% off, free shipping, and more. Private shopping starts at adamandeve.com.
You're listening to the House of Cards.
You lose track of time in those casinos. There's no windows, there's no clocks, and you never walk away from the table when you're on a heater.
Welcome back to House of Cards. Dave Weishuttle with you. Gambling has been a part of this country since it was founded, and women have played a crucial role in the growth of gambling. A great new book has documented the stories of some of these incredible women that broke barriers and helped shape the gambling business today. The book is titled That Expletive Broad, and I want to talk to the author right now, gaming attorney Jennifer Gaynor. Jennifer, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me, Dave.
I got to tell you, first, I love the title of your book, That Expletive Broad. How did that become the title of your book?
That's actually one of my favorite stories about the book. So as I was researching the various women that I was going to feature in the book, one of them, named Deborah Nutton, she was one of the first women to be a craps dealer on the Las Vegas Strip. And at a very early age, she became a pit boss at a strip casino, and some of the gentlemen that she worked with were less than thrilled that she was there. And so they would refer to her as that blank broad, something that, for a while was a bit of a challenge for her. She actually hid in the ladies' room during, break times to avoid seeing these men in the break room. But eventually she went on, like I said, to become a very young pit boss. And then she went on to be, a top executive for MGM and the Wynn, and had a stunning career in the gaming industry.
I've never read a book like this, and it was so great to read about the women in gambling. I mean, what inspired you to write this book?
Well, as you know, I've been a gaming attorney here in Las Vegas for more than 15 years. And, year after year, you go to the gaming conferences. I know you've been there.
Sure.
And you see lots of what we call manels. And that's, panels consisting mostly of men.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was at a gaming conference a couple of years ago, and, I was flipping through, looking at what our panels would be that day, and I saw manel after manel, and, it was a little bit disheartening. But then I looked around the room and I saw some amazing women in gaming, women like Sandra Douglas Morgan, who was then the chair of the Nevada Gaming Control Board, my good friend Ellen Whittemore, who is now general counsel at the Wynn. And I realized there was a lot of kick-ass women in that room. And there had been throughout the history of gaming, and I really wanted to make sure that their stories were told and shared.
I think it's great how you organized your book, too. You took us from the early days of gambling through corporate America and then with the women who worked in government and regulation. I especially love the story of the women in the early days of gambling because I have to admit, when I think of the Wild West and the card rooms west of the Mississippi, I really don't think of women in the gambling business. But there were several. I mean, for example, you have the story of Lottie Deno, who was incredibly interesting. Can you tell us a little bit about Lottie and some of the other women who were literally the real pioneers of women in gambling in this country?
Yeah, Lottie Deno, she was a great story. So she was, she had a very privileged childhood upbringing. Her father was a plantation owner, and he also raised race horses. But he had two daughters. He had no sons. So when he went on business trips, he would take Lottie with him often. And he was a gambler, so he would take her with him to the casinos in New Orleans, New York, even over in Europe. And along the way, he taught her how to play. So she actually, at a very young age, as a teenager, became a bit of a card shark. And this actually came in super handy for her when her father, unfortunately, perished. He was fighting in the Civil War, and he actually died, I think, in the first battle he fought in. So that left her mother with two daughters and a plantation to run. At a time when it was hard to, find men to come and work on their plantation. So her family sent her off to the city, to Detroit, hoping that where they had family friends, hoping that she could find a man to marry who she could then bring back and could run the plantation for the family. But of course, that's not what Lottie did. She went to Detroit. She went on the party circuit, and then she started gambling at card rooms and playing poker, and realized that she could make a lot of money doing that. Actually, enough money that she was able to support her mother and her sister with the proceeds she won from gambling. And then she went on to, have a very stellar career in the gambling industry.
Another part of the book I found really enlightening, because I've really never thought of it that way, were the women who actually owned casinos. And one of those inspirational stories you document was the incredible life of Saran Knight Preddy. I mean, tell us a little bit about her, because she impacted Las Vegas, she impacted the gambling business, and she was really influential even outside of the gambling business.
She was. Saran Knight Preddy, she's a very inspirational figure here in Las Vegas, especially in the African-American community. You know, she started off as the dealer in the card rooms in the segregated west side of Las Vegas. And I actually really enjoyed getting the opportunity to write about the west side and how Las Vegas, you know, once upon a time was segregated. So you would have, you know, famous African Americans who could perform on the Strip, but they couldn't stay in the Strip casinos. So there was actually a really active after-party nightlife on the west side where a lot of these performers, you know, African American and white alike, would come and spend their time after hours, you know, gambling in the casinos and the gaming parlors on the west side.
Okay, hold that thought. We're going to take a quick break. See you on the other side.
Attention seniors with Medicare. This is an important announcement. Did you know you may qualify for a monthly Social Security rebate? Did you know you may qualify for a $0 monthly premium? That's right. You may qualify to get $135 added back to your Social Security check each month. Just call the Medicare benefits line to get your options. It's a free call. You may also qualify for $0 premiums, dental coverage, vision coverage, hearing coverage, and prescription drug coverage. With this type of plan, you don't need Medicare supplement insurance. Call now because you deserve to get the most from your Medicare benefits, including a rebate to your Social Security check each month. Agents are standing by with free information regarding Medicare benefits. It's a free call with no obligation, but it could mean big savings for you. Call the Medicare benefits line now to see if you're eligible for a Social Security rebate.
Call 800-574-6770. 800-574-6770.
You're listening to House of Cards.
Where was the house? Where was the House of Cards?
Welcome back to House of Cards. Dave Weishuttle with you here. House of Cards is brought to you by Drizzly, your online liquor store. Available in over 95 cities across North America, Drizzly offers a huge selection and competitive pricing with a side of personalized content. Now there is no need to leave the house. Get alcohol delivered in less than an hour by Drizzly. Head on over to drizzly.com and order today. And now get $5 off your first order of $20 or more when using promo code DRINK19 at checkout. Shop beer, wine, and liquor with drizzly.com. For those of you just joining us, I am talking with gaming attorney and author of That Expletive Broad, Jennifer Gaynor. Sorry about that. Radio has to do its business, you know. Why don't you continue what you were saying before the break?
But anyway, that's where she started off working in the gaming industry because it was a very difficult time for her as a black woman to find, you know, a career elsewhere in Las Vegas where it was segregated. And she went on to become the first woman to get a gaming license in the state of Nevada. And, you know, she took that experience and she became involved with the NAACP and, you know, civil rights groups in Las Vegas and across Nevada. And she did a lot to advance African-American people. You know, for one, she ran for office. You know, she was the first female African-American to win a primary running for city council in Las Vegas. She ended up not winning. She went out of politics, decided it wasn't for her, and she went back to, you know, what she knew, which was gaming and running other businesses. You know, she was quite an entrepreneur and quite an inspiration for many.
You know, I found that aspect incredibly interesting. I was wondering, I mean, was it just the prejudice of Nevada at that time to keep her away from certain areas of the gaming business, or was it the laws of Nevada really keeping the women, especially Sarah Ann, down? Because, she wasn't allowed to work certain places, yet she was allowed to have a casino license, and she owned a casino. What was going on there?
Well, that was in northern Nevada, versus in Las Vegas, where there were various rules and ordinances. For example, they after she had become a dealer, they came up with an ordinance, prohibiting women from being dealers in strip casinos in the city of Las Vegas. And, that was, I think, prompted because a lot of, women at the time, they saw their men going off to casinos and gambling. And if there were female dealers, they were afraid they would lead the men astray and tempt them to gamble even more and perhaps cheat on them. So, women as dealers, women in the casinos working, were very much frowned upon by society. So that was something that she had to overcome, in addition to, the general segregation of Las Vegas at the time.
It seems that one of the areas in the casino and gambling business that women are underrepresented is at the executive level, but there are women who did achieve incredible success at the executive level. I mean, one of the women I was thinking of, and you documented in the book, was Virginia McDowell. Tell us a little something about her and the other women that have reached very successful levels in the gambling business at the executive level.
Yeah, and a lot of times, I found one thing I found interesting while I was writing this book was, I think in a lot of cases it was never an intention, to become an executive in the gaming industry. Virginia McDowell, for example, she started off, as a journalism student, working in radio and television. But then she saw that gaming was introduced in, your hometown, New Jersey, and wanted to get involved in industry at the very beginning. So she sent out, because she had become an expert in marketing and, TV and radio, and that was her major in college, was journalism. She was attracted to marketing directors at gaming properties, I believe it was the Tropicana, and they hired her to do marketing, and that's how she got into the gaming industry. But she ended up meeting some men along the way who were really mentors to her and taught her a lot about the actual operational side of gaming, and brought her along. One of the first major things she did was taking over a struggling gaming company, Argosy Gaming, and turning it around. And I think one of the ways she was able to do that was she had a very hands-on approach. So she would go down to the casino floor, she would talk to customers, she would, be very interested in what they liked, what they didn't like, what they wanted to see, and found ways to really make it a better experience for customers, and thus made, casinos more successful. And someone who knew her from her time at Argosy, when the Isle of Capri CEO position became available, really lobbied for her to be interviewed for the position because they knew, what a great job she could do. And that's how that came to be about.
I was reading That Expletive Broad, your great book, here in New Jersey at the perfect time, I think, because the big story that broke about a month and a half ago was that Caesars Entertainment named Jacqueline Gray Senior Vice President and General Manager of the Tropicana Casino in Atlantic City. Now, with that hire, it means that 4 of the 9 Atlantic City casinos were run by women, the other 3 being Melanie Johnson at the Borgata, Terry Glabaki at Ocean Resort, and Carrie Hall at Bally's. And that really made me think, because I was reading that section when I saw the news story break, and I was thinking, I was like, is New Jersey doing well in comparison to other states that have casinos? In your opinion, is that ratio or percentage keeping pace with other gaming markets across the country?
Oh, certainly. I think that's, great strides being made in New Jersey right now. But, this time with the pandemic, it's actually been a very challenging time for women in the workforce generally, in the gaming industry in particular. Where, gaming and hospitality is one of the industries that was very hard hit by the pandemic. And you look at some of the news stories coming out, talking about how this is having a outsized impact on women, that they're, leaving the workforce at, 4 times the rate that men are. So this makes it a very important time for women to be having these executive roles in the gaming industry and really keeping keeping a hold of the progress that women have made in the gaming industry, to become these executives. But we also have to be very careful that we don't lose women at all levels of gaming, because, you're not going to be able to have women in these executive roles if you don't have the pipeline at the lower levels leading up to that. So, I think this is a great time for this book and the messages in the book about the importance of women in the gaming industry, and for gaming companies to really pay attention, to make sure they're continuing to feed that pipeline.
Well, I'm curious. You mentioned it. I mean, are there gaming companies right now doing more to promote women and diversity in the workplace, especially at the executive level?
There definitely are, gaming companies that are working very hard to do that. And some of that is, prompted by some of the women in my book, who have become executives and are doing a lot to help women. And the Global Gaming Women organization, I think, has played a very important role in promoting that throughout the years. MGM's always had they took an early stance, and Caesars as well, in making sure that this was a priority for them. You see places like, the Wynn, where, they were kind of in a lot of trouble when it came to, misogyny and how women were treated in that workforce not that long ago, as we all famously know, with the cases against Steve Wynn. And they've had a major turnaround in their representation of women on their board, and putting Ellen Whitmore, choosing her to be the general counsel for the Wynn. So, there's definitely companies in Las Vegas and in the gaming industry that are doing really good things in this area.
Okay, hold that thought. We're going to take a quick break. See you on the other side.
I owed the IRS $10,000.
The IRS garnished my wages.
They put a lien on my house.
I'm self-employed and didn't report all my income. They claim I owe a lot more than I do.
The IRS is the most powerful collection agency in the world. They do not give up until you pay.
I couldn't sleep. We were being audited. I called Tax Solutions Now, and a great big weight was lifted off my shoulders.
I called Tax Solutions Now, and they got the IRS off my back.
Tax Solutions Now had my wage garnishment lifted in 48 hours.
Tax Solutions Now can get you help. Our agents know the rules, can stop the pain, and get you the best deal.
Tax Solutions Now saved my business.
I qualified for the Fresh Start program. I paid less than I owed.
We connect you with a team of former IRS agents and tax professionals who get the IRS off your back. Time is running out. Call Tax Solutions now.
Call 800-297-9788. 800-297-9788.
Hey, this is Dave Weishuttle from House of Cards with your House of Cards Gaming Report for the week of December 21st, 2020. According to the American Gaming Association, the casino industry in the U.S. is showing signs of a rebound. Casinos in the U.S. took in over $2.1 billion in slot revenue, $547.9 million for table games, and $237.5 million in sports betting. Commercial casinos reported a 6.3% increase in October from September's revenue figures. Michigan is poised to go live with online casinos and online sports betting. According to a spokesperson for the Michigan Gaming Control Board, it's expected that Michigan will go live with online gambling in mid-January, with the board approving 15 provisional licenses for online platforms. These providers will still have to go through the testing process and complete some regulatory requirements prior to their official launch. And finally, if there was ever a reason not to let someone use your fantasy football account, this is it. A lawsuit was filed in Florida by Andrew Most alleging he was pressured to let his boss use his personal DraftKings fantasy football account. Apparently, Andrew's boss won about $216,000 on the account, but according to the lawsuit, stuck Andrew with the tax bill on the winnings. That bill came to $93,000. Have any news or tips regarding casinos, gaming, or legislation? Send us an email at newsroom@houseofcardsradio.com and follow us on Twitter at HOC Radio.
You're listening to the House of Cards.
Whoa! I think we got a show. Oh, yeah, we got a show. We definitely got a show. Oh, yeah, there's a show. Hey, it's all about ratings, baby, and we got them.
Welcome back to House of Cards. Dave Weishottle with you here. House of Cards is brought to you by Drizzly, your online liquor store. Available in over 95 cities across North America, Drizzly offers a huge selection and competitive pricing with a side of personalized content. Now there's no need to leave the house. Get alcohol delivered in less than an hour by Drizzly. Head on over to drizzly.com and order today. And now get $5 off your first order of $20 or more when using promo code DRINK19 at checkout. Shop beer, wine, and liquor with drizzly.com. For those of you just joining us, I am talking with gaming attorney and author of That Expletive Broad, Jennifer Gaynor. You know, I want to ask you about the women who became the regulators who oversee the gambling activity in the state. And the one person I was going to bring up, you actually already brought up, Sandra Douglas Morgan. I found it amazing that a woman with such incredible knowledge of the gaming industry and gaming law, when the governor of Nevada called her up to be chair of the Nevada Gaming Control Board, she thought he was calling her to ask about the retirement of another board member, which I found that an absolutely mind-blowing story. I mean, tell us a little bit about Sandra Douglas Morgan.
She's incredibly smart, incredibly polished, but, one of the most modest people I've ever met. You know, when I actually initially approached her at a Global Gaming Women event to interview her for the book, she was like, "Me? Are you sure?" She's like, "I've only been chair for less than a year. I haven't accomplished that much." And I had to tell her, Sandra, just by virtue of being the chair of the Gaming Control Board, the second female and the first African-American chair of the board, just by being you and being in that position, you've accomplished quite a lot for women in the gaming industry. But yeah, and then when I was interviewing her, she was talking about how she really preferred getting involved in the operation of being the board chair and the policy of it. And I pointed out how important it was for me personally as a woman in the industry to see her speaking at gaming conferences and to see her up there as a role model and someone that women could aspire to be was extremely important. And she said, I really never thought about that, how important it was for me to be there, to be in the room, to be up there speaking. So she said, I'm going to make sure that I focus on doing that a lot more, because throughout her experience, she had women, at the MGM that she worked with, for example, who were inspirational role models and positions and executive positions that she could look up to. And, she brought up the quote, you have to see it to be it. And I think that's very true. Plus, she had a great background, not only in gaming, but she went through what she called trial by fire when she was working as counsel for the city of North Las Vegas, and they were having, one of their worst fiscal crises ever. And she helped, work with the governor, work with the mayor of the city, and shepherding the city through, what was a time of crisis, to turn things around and become, a very successful city, put it on a road to success. So, and she's pointed out, after going through that at the city of Las Vegas, that was really my trial by fire. She overcame in her own life and career what is known as imposter syndrome. And I think that's something that women suffer from a lot more than men. And that's, thinking that you're not qualified to be there. You look around, you're like, why am I here? What do I know? Do I know anything? And, going through that experience really helped her to overcome that and have a lot more confidence moving forward, which also helped her to be a great chair.
When we talk about the gambling industry, I mean, there are a bunch of branches within the industry itself. I mean, there's PR, there's player development, there's marketing. Are there areas in the gambling industry itself where women are really underrepresented to a point where companies should really be focusing on that area with regard to employment of women?
Sure, because, if you look at the numbers, and this is something I talk about in my book, where there might be, 38% of women represented at the executive level, but you realize they're siloed into certain categories. For example, you don't see a lot of women on the operational side. You don't see a lot of women on the floor. You don't see a lot of women in IT or security. Where you do see a lot of women are areas that are typically thought of as women industries, like human resources and marketing. So, and I point out in the book, for women, for themselves, taking a hold of their careers, one of the things they can do is look for areas where there isn't a lot of representation by women, and ask, their bosses to get them training in that area or to get experience in those areas. And that's something that companies can, really look for and try to encourage as well.
Right now in the gambling industry, certain states are allowing sports betting and online gambling. I mean, certainly we don't have the complete numbers and the research right now with regard to employment demographics. But do you think those are the next areas of gambling that have to be looked at with regard to women and their impact on the sector of the industry?
Well, I think those are, obviously growth areas for the industry. So it's, extremely important for women to be involved there. Sports betting in particular has, long time very much been a man's world.
Yeah.
So, when you see women making strides and being represented there, like my friend Jennifer Roberts is, counsel at the Interactive Gaming over at the Wynn, I think that's very exciting, and you hope to see more of that.
Looking back at the women you documented in your book, That Expletive Broad, throughout history of the gambling in this country, has there been one characteristic that all these women had that allowed them to push forward in what was once a male-dominated industry? Because I found it very interesting, and you brought this up in the interview, that, they did not set out to finally end up do what they're doing. I mean, a lot of the women and most of the women didn't think, hey, I'm going to own a casino. But what characteristic pushed them forward?
I think in most cases it's a few things, but one of it is they were all extremely hardworking. They were willing to put in the hours and the time. I think Claudine Williams, who was a high school dropout, who ended up becoming the owner and operator of a Las Vegas Strip casino. That's not a path you would ever see happening. But she worked really hard. She was very persistent. She asked for what she wanted. For example, when she was a teenager, she convinced the owner at a nearby, gaming parlor that had opened up to hire her, and said that she had experience with dealing dice, which she didn't really, but he bought it and brought her on, and she became the first female dealer at that club, and that's something she did throughout her career. Is she wasn't afraid to ask for what she wanted. She worked really hard to gain the experience and the knowledge that would make her a valuable asset. So, persistence, curiosity, I think, about the gaming industry and really wanting to do it, love for the game. The early women, Alice Ivers, Lottie Dino, they loved gambling. They loved poker. They loved playing, and they were very successful at it. So, it's love for the game, it's love for the industry, it's persistence, and it's the willingness to be a first in an area, to be the first woman to be a dealer, to be, perhaps not get a great reception from your colleagues. That was very important to many of their success.
Now, you're a very successful woman in the gambling business. What has it meant for you personally to research and write about the women who have come before you in this industry?
Well, first of all, it was incredibly inspiring. Because I knew there were great women out there, many of whom I knew personally, from my own experience working in the industry. But to learn about some of the other women who I didn't know about, extremely inspirational for me in writing this book. But also, it's a really great networking tool, I have to say. If there are people that you look up to in the work world and you're not sure how to approach them, if you're going to interview them for an article or a book, that's a great tool. It gets you a conversation, it gets you an introduction, and, I highly recommend it.
Jennifer, we're running out of time, but I certainly want to get your opinion on the current state of the gambling industry with regard to the pandemic. Certainly, it's been one of the most challenging times for the industry. I mean, I got to tell you, as a fellow gaming attorney, I've never before now had to draft a service contract for the cleaning and sanitizing of casino chips, but it's a very weird time. How do you see the gambling? How do you see the gambling industry emerging from this?
I think it's going to emerge stronger than ever. The gambling industry, as you know, over the years has gone through, many different changes and iterations. from, kind of the lounges and the card playing that was prevalent, back in the 50s and the early days, to, the onslaught of the large slot floors that really became the moneymaker for casinos in more recent years. And I think we're going to see a change away from that. And, what exactly that will be, I don't know. Will it be esports? Will it be online gaming? Different kinds of experiences that casinos can bring to the table. I think all of it's, really worth exploring. And sports betting, of course, now that PASP has been repealed, that's only going to continue growing across the country. So, I think the gaming industry, it's a dark time now. It's a difficult time now, but I think there's a, blue skies on the other side of the pandemic.
Jennifer, can you tell people how they can get a copy of your book, That Expletive Broad? And if you have a website or a social media address, you can give that out too.
Sure. You can find me on Facebook at Jennifer Gaynor or LinkedIn at Jennifer Gaynor. And the book is available on Amazon.com and Barnes & Noble. So if you just Google That Expletive Broad, you will be able to find it online.
Jennifer Gaynor, attorney and author of That Expletive Broad. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing the stories of these incredible women of gambling with us. It's an incredible book about the gambling industry. Thank you so much for coming on and talking about it.
No, thank you so much for having me, Dave. I appreciate it.
Stick around. We'll be right back with more House of Cards. More bets, better odds at PlaySugarHouse.com. Sign up today at PlaySugarHouse.com and don't forget to use our promo code HOUSE to take advantage of their first deposit match up to $250. Must be 21 years or older and in New Jersey to place a bet. Terms and conditions apply. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Stick around. We'll be right back with more House of Cards.
Haven't you heard? We don't need to hide anymore. Now, we can shop privately for adult products at adamandeve.com. They've got massage oils, lingerie, and lots more we can't mention here. Use offer code SPICE404. They'll give you 50% off almost any one item, 3 free DVDs, free mystery gift, and free shipping. That's 50% off, free shipping, and more. Private shopping starts at adamandeve.com.
Now that we're home more than ever, we need to feel safe. Call it a sign of the times or the world we now live in. What do you want to keep safe? The people in your life? What do you want to protect? Your possessions, the things that belong to you, the things that you've worked hard for. Wouldn't it be nice to have tested, trusted 24/7 protection? Peace of mind, real protection that's always there for you and your whole family? Well, now you can with one of our state-of-the-art home security systems. Everyone thinks their home is safe until the unexpected happens. Help protect your home and loved ones today with the affordable next generation in home security. To help keep your family and property safe, call 1-800-520-4068 now. Representatives are standing by to assist you. That's 1-800-250-4068. 1-800-520-4068.
You're listening to House of Cards.
The answer is probably. We're finished.
What are the odds? 1 in 100?
I don't do odds. I gave very detailed
casinos, sir.
Welcome back to House of Cards. Dave Weishaupt with you. You know, sports betting has become popular in the U.S., and people want to know what's going on in the sports books across this country. So back by popular demand, executive producer Doug Weishaupt is back with the book report to tell us what's going on in the sports books across the country. Doug, what do you got?
Indiana released their November numbers. They had a record handle for the month of $251.4 million. Revenue of $25.3 million, and they had an approximate hold of 10%. So that, again, 10%. I keep hitting on that one.
And that's a natural hold.
That's
There's
a natural hold.
Legislations that say, Indiana has to have a 10% hold.
This is the third straight month of a handle of at least $200 million. And also, it's the third consecutive monthly high for taxes. So they have a tax record as well.
Oh, wow.
$2.4 million for the month of November in terms of taxes. Now, taxes are computed differently than revenue. Revenue is the hold, basically, where it's not only just the taxable revenue, it's also the promos and the free bets that the books give out.
Okay.
So you have three different things to look at: the handle, hold, and tax. But they have set a tax record, $2.4 million for the month of November. Oregon. Now that's basically run through Scoreboard, which is their app. It's run by the lottery, and also the sports betting tech is Intralot.
Okay.
And
Oregon set a record, huh?
Yep.
All right.
They have a record revenue for November, over $4 million for the month of November, a handle of approximately $25 million. The revenue record, that's up almost 50% month over month. So they have had a really steady increase in the revenue generated by the Scoreboard app. Hold of 16.4%.
Okay. Wow. All right. Wow. Good for them.
That's an incredible hold number. Year-to-date revenue reported as $17 million for the state of Oregon. Football is the biggest sport bet on in the state, $14.7 million. 59% of the November bets were on football. Soccer came in second with $3.8 million, basketball $2.2, and here we go, table tennis. Hanging around, $1.4 million.
Table tennis.
They out-earned or out-wagered or out-handled, I guess is the phrasing, mixed martial arts, which brought in only $800,000.
That's impressive. I thought the mixed martial arts would do better than table tennis, but hey, they like their table tennis in Oregon.
The one thing I've noticed about table tennis versus MMA, there's a lot more table tennis going on. Depending on what markets
I guess
you have.
Table tennis is more of a daily kind of sport. You know, it's throughout the week.
It's throughout the day, throughout the
MMA
night.
is usually on a weekend, you know.
Well, again, it also depends on what state can offer what.
Okay.
What sport. Because if you offer a lot more offerings in table tennis, because there are lots of different leagues,
yep,
you're going to have a bigger handle. If you only offer like UFC in terms of MMA, that restricts the amount of money coming in on a wager for that sport. I mean, that's the same way with football, basketball, rugby. Rugby seems to be picking up steam, I've noticed, too. A lot more states are allowing rugby betting on their approved sports betting lists.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, table tennis may just have more events than MMA. I think MMA's got a more rabid fan base than table tennis.
Sure.
I've never met a rabid table tennis fan.
And table tennis is, a lot overseas, which means, if you want to bet on something 10 o'clock in the morning on the East Coast, guess what's playing? It's table tennis or soccer.
That's true. Well, I just mentioned that, or, in terms of what events are being offered by what states and everything else. I just went to a little tangent on that. Kind of goes with what Nevada just did. The Gaming Control Board just approved wagering on several new NBA awards.
Oh, okay.
You weren't allowed to do these before. Sixth Man of the Year, Coach of the Year, Most Improved Player, and Defensive Player of the Year. Those categories you were never able to bet on them in Nevada.
I'm very surprised. I would think Nevada would have those options to bet on, but no, I guess they didn't.
No, it's kind of interesting to see.
But the weird thing is, Nevada still has, you're not allowed to complete your registration for your online sports books on your phone or your tablet or you have to go to a physical sports book to complete your registration for your online registration, which doesn't make sense. But you can bet on these basketball.
Well, again, it's a matter of the states running with the situation that the entire country is in with
Sure.
with COVID and the shutdowns and the restrictions. A lot of states have shut down their casinos again. Pennsylvania as a whole has started shutting down everything. I believe their entire industry is going to be shut down for a couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
New Jersey may or may not do it. Governor Murphy's been kind of wishy-washy on that topic. He really hasn't said one way or the other.
I'm not sure what New Jersey's going to do with their casinos in Atlantic City. So, there have restrictions and for people inside, and you have to do your mask, and they take your temperature when you walk in. But I'm not too sure about what they're going to do with regard to keeping open.
Well, what'll be interesting to see in New Jersey, it's not just the casinos; it's the horse racing too.
Yeah.
I know the horse racing industry is still going.
Mm-hmm.
Again, restrictions on the casinos. I know Michigan shut down a whole bunch of casinos.
Yeah, in Detroit, right?
Yep. The
Okay.
Indian casinos are still open. The commercial casinos. That's also the other dichotomy you got to learn here in terms of commercial versus the Indian.
Yeah,
Native American. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, the Native American doesn't go by the laws of the state, so they have to choose whether they're going to stay open or not. So.
Well, I'm kind of curious to see what other states are going to be doing this, expanding their NBA offerings. The league, like we talked about earlier, the league is going to be opening up pretty soon around Christmas, December 22nd, as a matter of fact.
Mm-hmm.
So I know you have a lot of different futures being offered. I know Play Sugar House had some of these on there. PointsBet has them.
Yep.
So I think New Jersey's ahead of the curve with some of these things. Nevada is finally starting to catch up. Illinois actually just extended their non-in-person requirement. They got you don't have to go in person right now.
Okay.
Through January.
You don't
9th.
have to go in person to finish registering for your online.
You can still
account.
register online.
Okay. Good.
Rhode Island got rid of it completely. That's not coming back.
Well, good for Rhode Island.
Although they are shut down right now. The only thing going is the sports betting stuff.
Good.
DraftKings has been kind of busy over the last week here. Not only in terms of making deals, but also getting involved with helping out a push for sports betting legislation here. The deals, one in Tennessee, one in Connecticut. DraftKings became the official sports betting partner of the Nashville Predators.
Great.
They're going to be offering, basically, they're going to have these special promos, but the normal promo is if you're in Tennessee, you get a deposit bonus of up to $1,000 upon sign-up. You're going to see.
Now they're going to have like the signage in the arena.
Going to have all normal bells and whistles. Normal bells and whistles.
Their pregame and their things like that.
You're also going to see a static dasher board and virtual signage visible on TV for all regionally broadcast Predators games. You know all this stuff that they overlay on the broadcast TV, the broadcast editions of everything.
Okay, good.
They change them every period on the ice. You're going to see some digitally created stuff on the ice for DraftKings during this stuff.
Great.
They're going to be, let's see, let me get this. They're also going to be digital social media content as well. DraftKings are going to be all over the Predators homepage. They're going to be app integration to the Predators app, social media giveaways. They're also going to have a regular presence in, I actually like the way this nickname they gave them, This Week in Smashville.
Okay.
Nashville, Smashville.
Yeah, all right.
That's the Predators newsletter.
Oh, okay.
So they're going to be everywhere. Wherever you see a Predators thing, you're going to see DraftKings.
DraftKings all the time in Nashville.
Now, DraftKings also did a deal with the Mashantucket Pequot Tribal Nation in Connecticut for sports betting.
Okay. Now, what is
Foxwoods?
Foxwoods. Okay, because there's another one, Mohegan Sun in Ledyard, Connecticut.
Yes.
So we're talking about Foxwoods.
This is Foxwoods.
Foxwoods.
Now, what this allows them, it's basically the same type of sports betting deal everywhere you see. It's a partnership. It also has a fantasy sports component to it. That's going to launch before the sports betting because sports betting is not legal in Connecticut yet.
Okay. Well, I guess they're betting on sports betting being legal in Connecticut, huh?
Well, what happened here?
How close is Connecticut to actually doing that?
Everyone is contemplating 2021 for Connecticut.
It makes sense.
Now, what happened? A couple things happened that put this into motion as well for sports betting in Connecticut that affected legislation too. Not only this deal, but the tribe, the Mashantucket Pequot tribe. They have a deal with the Native Americans that work with Mohegan Sun, where they were going to try and launch another casino towards the Massachusetts border together.
Okay.
They dropped those plans. Now, dropping those plans, this deal with DraftKings for sports betting has now spurred on the governor to say, maybe we can get something together, work out the gaming compact the right way, and get it moving in the proper direction here. Now, the one thing everyone is wondering what's going to happen, both tribes have exclusive gaming rights in Connecticut.
Okay.
They don't know if the governor is going to be willing to give them exclusive sports betting rights.
Okay. That should be interesting.
Which was important why DraftKings made this deal.
All right.
Because if they get the exclusive compact for sports betting in Connecticut, they're in great position. If it's a wide open field, it'll be fun to watch exactly how and who comes in and when they come in for that state for sports betting.
Well, look, DraftKings is big in New England. I mean, their corporate headquarters is in Boston. I know in New Hampshire they are the only sports book around, right? It's just DraftKings.
That's it.
That's it.
It's an exclusive deal.
So I guess hopefully they were trying to do this for Connecticut, and we'll see how that works out. Well, that'll do it for us this week on House of Cards. If you're going to one of the newly reopened casinos, poker rooms, or sports books, please be safe. We'll see you next time on House of Cards.
Across the desert plain, you build a house of cards around a lover's heart. Wild country in your